There are roads in this world that seem to hold memories, echoing with whispers of the past. Some truckers say they've seen things in the dead of night that defy explanation, shadows that move on their own, headlights that suddenly flicker out, or even figures that appear on the side of the road only to vanish in a blink. Most stories are brushed off as fatigue-induced hallucinations or the result of too much caffeine. But every now and then a story emerges that's too chilling, too detailed, and too real to ignore. This is one of those stories. Ravi Singh was a seasoned truck driver, having spent more than 20 years on the road. He was the kind of man who didn't believe in superstitions or ghost stories. For him, the road was a place of work, simple, straightforward, and devoid of any mystery. But one particular night would challenge everything he thought he knew. It was a moonless night in late October. Ravi had been tasked with delivering a load of steel beams from Jaipur to Mumbai, a route he knew well. The highway was long and desolate, stretching out like an endless ribbon under the starlit sky. The drive was supposed to be routine, just another haul to mark off his logbook. But as he crossed the outskirts of a small, forgotten village, something felt off. The first sign of trouble was the fog. It rolled in suddenly, thick and heavy, reducing his visibility to just a few meters ahead. Ravi had driven through fog before, but this was different. It clung to the truck like a living thing, swirling in patterns that seemed almost deliberate. The world outside his windshield had dissolved into a gray void, leaving only the sound of his engine and the dim glow of his headlights to anchor him to reality. Then the radio cut out. Ravi frowned and fiddled with the dials, tried to bring back the music or the late-night chatter of the trucker's channel. But all he got was static. He tried to shake off the growing sense of unease, telling himself it was just the weather playing tricks on his mind. He kept driving, focusing on the road ahead, but the fog seemed to grow thicker with each passing minute. Just as he was considering pulling over to wait out the fog, he saw her. A figure appeared on the side of the road, barely visible through the mist. At first, Ravi thought it was a hitchhiker, rare in these parts, especially at this hour. But as he drew closer, he saw that it was a woman. She was standing perfectly still, dressed in a simple white sari that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. Instinctively, Ravi slowed down, his eyes narrowing as he tried to get a better look. There was something about the woman that made his skin crawl. She wasn't waving for help, wasn't trying to flag him down. She just stood there, staring straight ahead, her face obscured by her long black hair. Ravi's heart began to race. He didn't know why, but he felt an overwhelming urge to keep driving, to leave this eerie figure behind. He pressed his foot down on the accelerator, but as his truck passed her, the engine sputtered and died. The truck coasted to a stop a few meters down the road, the headlights dimming until they flickered out completely. Ravi's hands shook as he tried to restart the engine, but the key wouldn't turn. It was as if the truck itself had succumbed to the oppressive atmosphere. Ravi glanced in his rearview mirror, hoping the woman had disappeared back into the fog. But she was still there, closer now, standing directly behind the truck. Her face was still hidden, but Ravi could feel her eyes on him, burning through the mist. Panic seized him. He locked the doors, his breath coming in short, frantic gasps. The woman hadn't moved, but the air inside the cab had grown cold, unnaturally so. Ravi could see his breath fogging up the glass, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. He didn't believe in ghosts, but this was something else. He had heard stories from other drivers, tales of haunted highways and cursed routes, but he had always dismissed them as nonsense. Now, sitting alone in his powerless truck, Ravi wasn't so sure. Minutes passed, feeling like hours. Ravi sat frozen, staring at the mirror, waiting for something to happen. But the woman just stood there as if waiting too. Finally, Ravi mustered the courage to roll down the window, just enough to call out, "Hello? Do you need help?" His voice sounded weak, trembling in the silence. The woman didn't respond, didn't move. Ravi swallowed hard, his hand still on the ignition. He needed to get out of here, but the truck refused to start. Then the woman began to walk. She moved slowly, deliberately, her bare feet making no sound on the asphalt. She rounded the side of the truck, disappearing from view as she approached the passenger side door. Ravi's heart pounded in his chest as he leaned over, trying to see where she had gone. A soft tap echoed through the cab. Ravi jumped, his eyes snapping to the passenger window. The woman was standing there, her face still hidden behind that curtain of black hair. But now, up close, Ravi could see the strange, dark stains on her sari stains that looked suspiciously like blood. Another tap, this time more insistent. Ravi's hand shook as he reached for the lock. He knew he shouldn't open the door. Every instinct screamed at him to stay inside. But there was something compelling about her presence, something that made it impossible to look away. His fingers fumbled with the lock, and as the door clicked open, the fog seemed to surge forward, filling the cab with a damp, suffocating chill. The woman stepped back, giving Ravi a clear view of her face. He wished he hadn't looked. Her eyes were hollow, empty sockets that seemed to pull him in, drowning him in darkness. Her mouth twisted into a grotesque smile, revealing teeth that were far too sharp, far too many. And then she spoke, her voice a whisper that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Take me home," Ravi screamed, slamming the door shut and throwing himself back into the driver's seat. He twisted the key, and this time the engine roared to life. Without a second thought, he floored the accelerator, the truck lurching forward as he tore down the road. The fog parted as he drove, the oppressive weight lifting as the truck picked up speed. Ravi didn't look back, didn't dare check the mirrors. He just drove, pushing the truck to its limits until the fog finally thinned and the stars reappeared overhead. It wasn't until he reached a roadside dhaba, miles down the highway, that he finally stopped. Ravi stumbled out of the truck, his legs shaking, his heart still racing. The few other drivers at the dhaba looked at him with concern, but Ravi couldn't bring himself to speak. He collapsed onto a bench, his mind racing with the horror of what he had just experienced as the night wore on, and the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon. Ravi finally found the courage to check his truck. It seemed normal, no signs of damage, no lingering fog. But when he reached the passenger side door, he froze. There, on the window, was a single handprint smeared with what looked like blood. Ravi left that dhaba at first light, refusing to drive that route ever again. He never spoke of what happened that night, not even to his closest friends, but the memory haunted him, a reminder that there are things on the road, things that defy explanation, things best left alone. And every now and then, When he's driving late at night, Ravi catches himself glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see a figure in white standing by the side of the road, waiting for a ride. If you have any real horror paranormal experience with you or any of your friends or relatives, please let me know on this Gamelid. And did you like this story? Please do tell in the comments.